Good evening or morning, depending on where in the world you are. So today is Friday, so we are on number 5 in this series of videos that I'm doing this week. And I have actually enjoyed this quite a lot, so I think even though I'm not going to continue every day, but I'll probably continue a couple of days a week. So we'll talk about that later and see what sort of topics you might be interested in. So today I am going to talk about why I don't think it's a very good idea to avoid trigger foods if you want to remove your cravings. So this is a very interesting topic, and it can be quite a tricky one because some people feel very, very strongly about this. So that's why I want to share my opinion of this, and obviously if you still choose to remove those trigger foods from your environment, you can do so, but I want to tell you why I don't think that is the best idea for you to do. So my whole professional life as a diet advisor, a nutritionist, and a personal trainer, I've obviously given out a lot of diet advice in my days. And I think when people have been struggling with cravings, like most people, I would just say, hey, just don't buy that stuff. Don't have it at home, because then you can't be triggered or you can't be tempted to give in to those cravings. And that is a very easy solution to the problem right now, but it's not a very good long-term solution. And I think nowadays many professionals go even further than that. They go so far as to telling their clients that maybe you should avoid looking at, we call it food porn. So anything like cooking shows, any pictures on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you're looking at when you're online, you don't want to see those things because all of that can trigger cravings. And this is true. If you see a picture of a food that you really, really fancy, you're probably going to get a craving from it. But just removing these pictures doesn't actually remove the cravings. You're still going to have cravings. You might not have the same craving for the same food or at that exact time when you would have seen that, but you're still going to have cravings. So if you remove this opportunity of getting a craving, you might have a craving 20 minutes later for something totally different, and that might just be created in your brain. So I don't think that you are getting rid of the cravings because you don't see them, or that you get fewer cravings because you don't see these foods necessarily. It might be true for some people, I don't know. But the problem is that the problem is that we have cravings. So if you want to remove these temptations from your environment so that you don't have to eat them because we think that we have to respond to our cravings, that is the same thing as, let's say, cutting down all the trees in the forest and fill the forest with gravel to prevent forest fires. We're not going to get a fire there, but we don't even have a forest anymore. This is not really a good solution. So removing all these cravings, you're not going to eat those things necessarily right now, but you're still going to have the cravings, and you may still go and binge eat something else, or just normal eating for that matter. So this is not really a solution, it's more of a band-aid. We're not dealing with the actual problem. Because the problem here is that we are craving things. The problem isn't that we are eating them, it's the cravings themselves. So if we deal with the cravings, we're not going to have this desire for these foods. So if you take away the cravings, trigger foods are no longer trigger foods. They are just foods, and that is not going to be a problem for you. So what I would like to encourage you to do is to deal with your cravings and manage those in order to be able to see all these foods and act like a normal person, normal, whatever normal is, in the world, without feeling like you have to go overboard with stuffing yourself full of these things. So I don't think that the solution is to remove these things. I don't ever think that that can be the solution. That is just temporary. As I said, band-aid, something that we do to make life easier. Unfortunately, life isn't easy. And this makes me actually think about those overprotective parents that either they don't let their children do anything, or they wrap them in bubble wrap and put a helmet on as soon as they go out, because otherwise they might get hurt. And when they grow up and they get into trouble, parents are always going to bail them out and make sure that everything is fine and not let their children actually deal with the consequences. So when these children are growing up, when they're 18 and they move out, all of a sudden they're left on their own in the world, and they have to deal with all the consequences of everything that they do because mommy and daddy aren't there anymore. And they're going to find the reality very, very harsh. So this is what I'm thinking about when you're trying to remove everything. It's just that you're wrapping yourself into a bubble wrap and trying to not see the things that are actually there, because unfortunately we live in a world that is full of trigger foods. So there's nothing you can do about that. There's only so much of your external environment that you can control. And then you're going to be scared that as soon as you go outside this safety zone, you're not going to be able to control yourself. And I don't think that that is freedom. And what I want for you is to be able to feel that freedom of being free from the cravings and not react to those foods. That's where I want you to get. I don't want you to go and hide in a cave just because you have a problem with cravings. I don't think that is good for anyone. And then when you go out into the real world, what are you going to do when you arrive at work and there is a big cake there because someone's birthday? Or you're walking past a food truck and it just smells delicious and they just have the most amazing baked goods that you have ever seen. What are you going to do then? Or you walk past a cafe and someone's sitting in there eating a piece of carrot cake and you love carrot cake. How are you going to deal with that? Are you just going to walk half a mile extra just to avoid the smell from the food truck? And obviously you can't tell people at work that they can't bring cake. So what are you going to do in those situations if you don't know how to handle your cravings? So I think it's just, I do understand why people say that, remove all those food triggers and don't watch cooking shows and so on. Sure, I can agree to some extent that maybe you shouldn't seek it out because it might be an obsession that you want to watch food and you might almost be addicted to watching these things. But other than that, I would actually suggest that you are seeing these trigger foods and the cooking shows and whatever there is as a challenge for yourself. So use them to teach yourself to overcome the cravings. So just watching them can actually speed up your recovery, if you like, or your reconditioning of the brain. I think I mentioned this before. So I gave you the example with the Pavlov's dog. So when we are conditioning ourselves to something, especially if there's a reward at the end, the conditioning is really, really quick. When you decondition something that has a reward at the end, is not necessarily as quick, but you can do this in a matter of a few hours. And now I'm talking about a few hours of allowing cravings, so actively allowing those cravings. So if you get triggered by looking at the picture of a cake, you could do this in a very controlled environment. You could get this picture up of the cake, you feel the craving. Now, for me, I would probably start salivating. That's what I do when I crave things quite a lot of the time. And you just look at it and you practice what I taught you 2 days ago, just being with that craving and allowing it. And if you do this, you are practicing this new neural pathway in your brain without actually having the food in front of you. It's just a picture. So the more you do this, the more you practice this new neural pathway. And the easiest is going to be when you're actually faced with a real cake, when you're at work, because you now you're actually sort of used to doing this. You know which path to take and what it feels like, so you can do that out in the real world. And for most people, if I say practice allowing a craving 100 times, I bet that most of you, after 100 times, if you even get to 100, you won't have any cravings anymore. They will be gone, or very, very rare. You will just feel, okay, there's a craving, but my new pathway is this pathway, and I don't respond to those cravings anymore. So you don't have a problem with feeling like you have to take the old pathway and you have to follow through with this sequence. See it, have a craving, and eat it. Rather, you see it, you have the craving, and then you take the other pathway and you just allow that craving without reacting to it. So this is a little brain hack. So you're kind of cheating, but you're just speeding up the process of working through, having as many cravings as possible, learning how to allow the cravings, and pretty much going through that whole cycle and repeating it so that you build up this other pathway in your brain. And that's actually quite efficient, much more than you would imagine. So we can use this food porn, if we do it intentionally, to actually get over our cravings much, much quicker, which is quite cool, I think. So if I get a craving now, I will always notice that craving. So I notice that it's there, and then I can choose, do I want to go the old way and react to it, or will I take the new pathway? Because I haven't been sugar-free for years yet, but I have been sugar-free long enough to automatically almost go to, well, I do automatically go to the ignore pathway. However, I am still aware of what is going on. It is automated, but I still notice what I'm thinking. So this is also really important, that be aware of what you're doing. It's really easy when you have a picture of a cake or whatever, and your intention is actually to use it to practice having cravings. And that is quite safe, I would say, unless you're sitting next to another cake that you could be using. So I always want to encourage you to try this. If you think that you have a massive problem with it, maybe just try and practice it without that first, and then go over to that, because you really, really can speed this process up immensely. So when you allow a craving, for some people the craving will be there for a second, 2 seconds, something. For me, they go away really quickly. It's almost like when I'm noticing them, when I'm looking at them, they just sneak away as if they don't want to be seen. Some people have cravings for a very long time. So if we say that you have a craving that lasts for minutes, just practice that. It's fine. It's nothing strange. We're all different. Sometimes they go away just to come back again after 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever, and that's fine. That's a new craving. So you get this repetition again. So you have one craving, and then you have another one, and you have another one. That's 3 cravings. If your craving is longer than 10 minutes, I would say that it's probably equally good as having 2 cravings in terms of practicing this. Because the more you're thinking about it, and the more you're sitting with it, the more you allow it, the more used to it you're gonna get. And as I've said before, when you want to build a new pathway, it's all about repetition. So it's about you being aware of what you're doing. So really, really think about what it is that you're doing when you're allowing the craving. Because if you're just ignoring it when you're sitting there and almost think about something else, you're distracting yourself. And that is not very useful, because then you're not actively working on this new pathway. You're pretty much having a third pathway, which is see the cake, have the craving, distract yourself. So you're just going to basically build up another behavior, which is as soon as you have the craving, you're going to have to distract yourself with a thought or, something else. It might not be something that is bad for you, but I think it's better if you can just allow it. Because distraction is never good. Then when you are if you're working, for example, and you have a craving, you may not be able to focus on work. You might have to start distracting yourself with, I don't know, you might get into getting addicted to Facebook or something else, because that is a distraction that gets your brain to think about something else. So just watch out for those things. So you don't want to distract yourself. You want to be present, and you want to really pay attention to what it is that you're doing. So we want to change our brains, not our environment, because that's all we have control over, and that is what is going to help you when you're out in the real world. So at the end of the day, there are going to be cakes and cupcakes and donuts, chocolate, things everywhere. You have absolutely no control of that. And you don't want to. I don't want to walk around in life and be scared of attending events or, just going out and checking things out because there will be food there and I can't say no, and I really don't want to eat it, but I'm scared that I will. That's not how I want to be sugar-free. I want to be sugar-free and actually be free and feel like I am empowered and I can choose myself whether I want to eat it or not. And remember what I've said before, you don't have to be sugar-free every day for the rest of your life. You can choose, but let your prefrontal cortex decide when you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, and how much. Now, it's not always possible because sometimes you're going somewhere and you don't know exactly what's going to be there, but then you can kind of estimate. Or if you're going to a festival or something, you can say, okay, I'm going to buy myself 2 treats. And that's what you're going to do if you want to. If you don't want to on the day, that's fine. But decide where your max limit is and make it reasonable so that you can actually stay within this limit, because the most important thing here is that you let your prefrontal cortex, the planning part of your brain, be in charge and be in control, because that is what we want to practice, to have this part of the brain run the show and not the lower part of the brain. Hi Save, hope you're fine. I'm almost done, but you can watch the replay. So for those of you who might disagree with me and think that I'm completely wrong because you can't avoid giving in to your cravings when you see the trigger foods, I would like you to go back 2 days ago. I made a video, I called it Not Eating Sugar is Easy. Watch that video and do that exercise and see if that will help. If it doesn't, yeah, it's all good. If you have any questions, by the way, just let me know. Anyway, where was I? So, yeah, go back to that video, do the exercise, and if it does not help, then send me a message, because I would love to help you, and I know I am 100% convinced that anyone who actually really genuinely wants to quit having cravings can use these tools successfully. So if you can't do it on your own, let me know and I would be more than happy to help you, because there's nothing more than that I want then for you to actually be able to quit sugar. And that's why I'm doing these videos. This is why I've changed my Facebook group to this, because as I said, I keep repeating myself, and I never thought that that would be possible for me, but it is, and that's just, it's above my head. And I think we all think that we are that special little snowflake that nothing will work on, and believe me, I am the bloody special snowflake here. If I didn't want to quit sugar as much as I actually wanted, I think that this would have failed, because I'm so bloody stubborn that I would have wanted to prove that this doesn't work, because nothing works on me. I am that special snowflake. So don't be too stubborn for your own good. just really give it a chance because it does work. Okay, so Saverina, pretty sure my eating habits are hormone balance help. Yes, I spoke to you before, and I think, because you told me that you were eating a lot of carbohydrates, and I think maybe we're having an issue with too much carbohydrates. I don't know if you watched I think it was the first video from Monday. I think I mentioned hormones quickly. I can't really remember what I said what day. But when you are eating a lot of carbohydrates and you get insulin resistance to some degree, it will always start impacting your leptin imbalance as well. And if you're insulin resistant, you're most likely leptin resistant as well. So my best advice to you is cut out the carbs, especially everything that is made, obviously all the sugar and everything that has any type of flour in it. And now I'm talking about any type of flour, even if it's almond flour, because it's ground down, so the carbs that are actually in there are very easily accessible, and no juices or anything like that. I think you know your nutrition fairly well, so I think you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, cut as many carbs out as possible and see how that goes. But I do know that you also have had some thyroid problems, so just see what you can do with that. I hope that helps a little bit. Right, so yeah, I think that was all that I had to say on that topic. So thanks for joining me today. And it seems to be a little bit up and down with how many people are coming in here. Maybe it's not the best time of the day to do this, but as I said, I think I might be next week. I might just do a couple and do them on maybe other times of the day, and I might put a poll up in the Facebook group to see when people actually want to see this video, what times are best for you, and put them up twice a week or so. So thank you very much, and I hope I will see you again tomorrow. Take care. Bye.